Hi, I'm Kojfman, and I'm a regular guy that needs to fix his oven by replacing the igniter. So I do videos on food, not repairs, so welcome to the channel. But I really wanted to make this video for people like me, where you live in an apartment or you just bought a house with an oven that needs fixing and you want to save money and do it yourself. But watching repair videos can be a little overwhelming. I found that when you watch the pros or a channel with a repair guy, they suffer from the curse of knowledge. They can't help it because they don't know what it's like not knowing the stuff they know. They innocently assume the audience knows stuff we don't and skip steps or just don't explain or show things because they figure it's obvious. Totally understandable, but that's where a guy like me comes in. In this communication book I read a long time ago, they explained it that learning something is like a journey through the letters A to Z. And some people start off at the letter M and go straight into using jargon and terms that you don't know. And while I don't need to explain what an oven is and does, I will go through and show you everything I did so that you can be successful. Let's do this. So before we start, you're obviously here because you believe it's the igniter, but I'm going to give you 3 reasons to tell you that it is. Aside from when you Google it, 90% of the time, it is the igniter. Reason number 1 is when you turn on the gas oven, nothing is lighting and it smells like gas, okay? Number 2, and this is most likely what happened with me, is that you slowly start to see that it's taking longer and longer to reach 350 degrees. Okay, it should only take about 15, maybe 20 minutes. It all depends on the oven that you have. This is a Samsung. So we'll do a test at the end when we fix everything, how quickly it can get to 350. But I do recall it taking about 15 minutes. But slowly you'll start to realize that it's taking 20, 25 minutes. Okay, and that's a clear indication that your igniter isn't working properly. And lastly, and it's related to the second reason, is that maybe you set the oven to 350, you walk away playing with the kids or doing something else, so you're not really paying attention. But then when you come back to the oven, you're like, you know what, I actually want to cook at 425. And so when it's at 350, you raise it to 425, and it seems to be inching its way up to 425. Now, those are the 3 reasons I think that it is your oven igniter, but you're here, you know it's the oven igniter, so what we're gonna do, and this is the most important step, and I cannot stress this enough, is that we are going to unplug the oven and turn off the gas. In order to access the gas, I'm going to open up the door and slightly pull out the oven just a little bit to expose the back. See my hand? It is behind this yellow tube, and you need to turn it perpendicular. It is facing up and down, and you want it, but I'm gonna show you the plug to show you that safety is, there we go. You wanna make sure that it is unplugged and that the gas is off. We are now going to remove the door. This is optional. It makes things just a little easier. That's why the manual always comes in, because sometimes it's not as intuitive as to undo the oven door, but all it is you pop it open, and some have these small little hinges. Using a screwdriver, you can pull them back. There are 2, obviously, because it is a door. There we go. Okay. All right, now that the door's off, told you not everything's gonna be easy. We remove everything outside of the oven. Once the door's off and the racks are out, sorry about the poor lighting, but we are going to remove the first layer, and it's usually screwed in, so you're gonna need a variety of screwdrivers. I have a flat head and a Phillips head, which is the plus sign, okay? And what I like to do is I like to take a piece of paper and section it off like this, so I put the screws in the proper section, so I can take off the first layer, second layer, and third layer, so then I know when putting them back, these are the screws that go into the third layer, second layer, and first layer back properly. You can use small bowls or little glass jars. Maybe not glass, plastic might be a little safer, but here we go. I don't recommend using an electric screwdriver or a drill with a screwdriver bit, is because you don't want to strip the screws, because then you're in a whole world of hurt with that. So just screw them off manually. And once the 2 screws are out, you can just say this is the first layer, so you know. Maybe draw a circle around them and make sure that they do not move from their spot. We're gonna take out the first layer, place that off to the side, And then we have to do the same thing for the second layer. You're probably thinking, maybe they're all the same screws, so why do you have to section them off and put them in their own little section? But you'd like to believe that, but for some reason, sometimes they are different screws. Maybe it's been replaced by a different technician who came in, or the previous homeowner, or the landlord. So I like to just keep them separate, but one would like to believe that they are all the same screws. And they should be, probably. Okay, let's remove the second layer. You could probably put them on a towel so you don't scratch your floor. I'm playing a little fast and loose with that. But what I am going to do is I am going to write second layer here, put a circle around the two screws so that I know that those two screws, which look different from the first ones, that's what I'm saying. All right, so we've hit pay dirt. This is the igniter. One would think that we'd be able to just remove it like it right here, but they don't allow us to do that. We actually have to remove one more spot with this gas tube here. This is where I get a little nervous, because like I don't want to be messing around with gas tubes, but we got to take that part off in order to get the igniter off. So that is layer number 3. We're going to unscrew this arm, and you'll see it gets a little tricky, but bear with me. All right, do not lose the screw. I have dropped it in here. That's why this one looks a little newer. Is third layer, or the arm screw. I'm going to draw a circle around it. Do not leave your home. All right. All right, so there's actually another screw right here connecting the arm to the front. I almost forgot about that one. So we're going to unscrew that, put it beside its brother on layer 3 in the little circle. Okay, now we should be able to remove the arm out. A gentle wiggle. Just try to be gentle. Okay. Now, I'm asking you to be gentle because it is still connected electronically. It is plugged in. So these two wires are what provide the electricity into the igniter that ignites the gas. So what we do is we need to carefully unplug this, and it's quite simple. In that we just, like plastic and plastic, just yank them out gently. Okay. And then this is your igniter. Okay. And in order to disconnect it from the arm, we are going to remove these two screws. If this is your first time, I would take it out and do it. I'm doing it in the oven, which is not wise, but because I have all these cameras here and I'm trying to keep it simple, so forgive me. Okay, so I'm gonna take this screw out and this nut. Okay, and we're just gonna push up. There we go. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. There's a little plate there. There we go. This is fourth layer, just to keep it consistent, and I'm going to say that it is the igniter connection. Okay. So now that we've removed all of 3 layers plus the arm, okay, and we remove the igniter, the old igniter, from this arm, I'm going to show you what the new igniter looks like, but I'm sure you've already opened up your package. Here's some advice in regards to igniters, okay? And probably explains why I've had to replace it a couple of times in the last few years. All right? This is from Amazon because I needed one very quick. I didn't want to wait a week to fix my oven. You probably don't want to do it. Now, the thing is though, if you want a genuine igniter from Samsung or whatever oven you have, they are priced at like $150 to $200. Now, I don't know if spending $200 is going to make this oven igniter work better than a OEM or an original equipment manufactured part that fits and works just as well. However, I do believe that it would. I just didn't want to spend the $200 at samsungparts.com or samsung.com where they sell the official genuine parts. Okay, this is the world we live in where you can get something close enough and it works well. But my heart of hearts believes that if you do spend $150 to $200 on a genuine Samsung part, that it should last you better than some generic. Okay, I can't guarantee that. So I needed something quick. I got it off Amazon. They range from like 25 to 50 bucks. It's entirely up to you which one you want to buy. You just want to make sure one is compatible with your model. That's why getting the manual model number. If you don't know the model number, take a picture of your oven, put it into ChatGPT, describe it to ChatGPT. It could probably help you, okay? Because some of the connectors are a little different depending on the model. I had these connectors. I wanted to get one that looked just like this one. I think this one cost me about 35, 40 bucks. I ended up buying two. One came in 2 days and I installed that one. And then about a week later, this one came from Amazon. I guess it takes a little bit longer. But sometimes when you buy stuff from a genuine parts like samsungparts.com, it can take like up to 7 to 10 days. I did not want to wait that long. So that being said, we are going to install this back onto the arm in the same way that it was back on. If it is your first time, you could have taken a picture of it, but you can obviously Google how it looks. But basically, we're taking the arm, and sometimes this confuses me, but we are going to install it right where the igniter is right by the arm, okay? So we want to make sure that it is lined up properly, okay? If it is your first time, maybe take pictures so that you remember, because you don't want to install it incorrectly. You want the igniter close to the gas pipe. This turns on, it lights the gas. If you install it like this, right, it's too far away. It will not work, okay? I want to make sure that it is properly lined up. To the fourth layer, take those screws and put them back exactly the way they were. All right. Okay, I'm tightening the bolts or the nuts. Okay, I'm flipping this over. And I'm going to tighten it up. Grab my Phillips or my plus sign screwdriver. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. All right, I just want to make sure that you see this. It's nicely screwed on tight. It is lined up with the arm. So if this turns on, the gas will ignite, okay? Sorry I'm not in the camera, but I'm just going to put this back in as properly as possible. Now the trick is we gotta fit this tubing into the gas dispenser there. That's one of the most important part. And at the same time, simultaneously plug this in and make sure that this lines up exactly how we need it to line up as it was before. All right, so here's the best camera angle I can give you. We have to connect those two plastic things, and if you see the thing on the right, which I'll indicate on the screen, that is where the tubing has to go over. That's the gas dispenser. So it's important that we fit that on there and simultaneously get those two plastic things back onto that rod and the igniter, because that's what gives it its electricity. All right. You'll have to forgive me, but I am going to have to do this without a close-up camera angle. Okay, so now that I plugged it in, you're probably gonna be asking, does it matter which plug goes into which plug? There's 2 and 2. For this model, it does not matter. but you might want to check because they are probably going to be labeled with different wires. These were both white. You can both plug them in, and you know, it doesn't matter about that, but look into your model. Typically they will have different colored wires, but they both fit in properly with the wires. You want to move the wires out of the way and line up the screw hole, but just to ensure that that pipe is over that gas line. Make sure that none of the wires are being pinched by anything, and I just want to double check that that pipe is going over this. All right, we have to adjust the arm to swing around so it also lines up with the hole. And just make sure that it is lined up over that gas valve. There we go. There we go. We want to make sure that this is lined up. Make sure that that pipe is over the gas release and that these wires are out of the way. Let me just... There you go. Make sure it's lined up, and then you want to make sure that this is lined up. Now, we're going to grab our third layer screws. Place them back from whence they came. There we go. Okay, tighten that one up. Okay, this is the third layer screw. We are going to make sure not to drop this. Make sure that this is nicely lined up. And tighten it. Okay, double check that the igniter is on nice and tight. This is the second layer. These little tabs go in the back. And don't worry, if you mess it up, you can obviously just turn it around. But you gotta make sure that these holes line up with these holes and that this thing, right, lines up, because you want to give it a bit of space for the arm. Taking our second layer screws, I've had to adjust it by pulling it out a little bit so that the holes line up. Okay, I'm going to put in my Phillips head first and just make sure I don't lose this. All right, so we've gone through all the connectors. This was the igniter connection. This is our third layer, our second layer, and last we have our first layer. I'm going to put this off to the side. We're going to take our screw holes here, okay, and we have two little tabs here. We're going to insert them in first. There we go. Should fit in nicely like a puzzle. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other layers. I'm putting in the screw into the Phillips first. And then I'm all right, now that you're done, you want to put in the racks and put on the door. However, we're going to put on the door and we are going to turn on the electricity and the gas, and we are going to test to see if this thing ignites and works. I can't really see, but that's half the fun. All right, plug in. All right, that's the beautiful sound of an oven getting energy. And now let's turn on the gas and let's go test it out before we put everything away. So this is actually a speed test, take number 2. Initially, I had it under 7.5 minutes. There were no racks in the oven, but that footage got lost, or I don't know, I lost power in the camera. So this is another speed test, and I managed to get it in under 9 minutes, which is a massive improvement because it used to take 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes to get to 350. So this works. So hopefully after this, you too will know how to replace an igniter and save some money. To be honest, this is like the third time I've had to replace a faulty igniter, and we're talking about maybe getting a new oven. Now, I enjoy cooking with gas, but in talking with my wife, future-proofing our house and the environment and health reasons, we might even go induction. So I don't even know if we'll even have an igniter in the same way, but I really wanted to share with you how I did it. Sorry about the poor lighting. It is hard to film in a dark oven, but hopefully I was able to give you a step-by-step, maybe an A through Z journey on how to replace the igniter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.